Hello, folks. Welcome back to Frank Reviews. Today, we're going to do another kaiju film. Yes, I know, another kaiju movie. I already did Godzilla Raids Again on my birthday, and I figured, what the hell, might as well do another kaiju film. Because one of my favorite things as a kid was watching monster films, along with action movies, martial art films, and giant robot films. But my favorite ones were always monster films, regardless. And my personal favorites were always some of the ones from Japan. Mostly the ones with Godzilla in it. So today we're going to look at a movie with a kaiju character that's actually gotten famous, and he's actually one of the top main four kaiju's from the Toho monster universe. And which one is it? Well, he had his own solo film in the 1950s, and he's been tag teamed with Godzilla throughout most of the Showa era. Although he didn't show up in the 1970s for some reason, he came back in the 90s, and he had a one hell of an update in Godzilla King of the Monsters. So today we're gonna look at the one, the only RODAN. Yes, RODAN. RODAN is actually considered one of the top four famous kaiju's from the Toho monster universe. Number one is Godzilla. Number two is obviously King Ghidorah for obvious reasons, you know. Number three is Mothra because of the fact she's the only female kaiju, and she's actually very popular due to the fact that she's like a phoenix. Even though she's a giant butterfly, she's mostly just like a phoenix. Even though she dies, she always comes back. And Rodan is no exception. He's definitely on the top four. It was number five, and that's a good point. And that's a good question. I kind of forgot who number five was. But all joking aside, today we're going to look at the original 1950s film. Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't I cover this movie before? The answer is no. I only covered I actually covered Varan the Unbelievable, and that was a few years back. And looking back at it now, I realized I probably should have done Rodan when I had the chance, but I must have forgotten about it since then. So I'm going to make up for it today, considering the fact that from this point onward, what comes out to the Godzilla films, I'm going to do the Showa films from this point onward. Although I'm definitely going to skip over King Kong versus Godzilla because I already covered that film a couple of years ago. And I did a spoiler review on Godzilla versus Kong, which I kind of regret doing that, but what the hell can I say? I'm a fan, and I was just ecstatic at the time. As for Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, okay, joking aside, I'm actually waiting for the third film to come out now, and it's going to be more focused on Godzilla this time. So thank God for that. And Godzilla minus one is getting a sequel. Oh, holy fucking Luya! Oh. Okay, seriously, if they do make a sequel to Godzilla fights another monster, for the love of God, can they please make sure it's Anguirus? Seriously, he needs to come back. Honestly. Okay, joking aside, we're going to take a look at Mothra. We're going to take a look at Rodan because of obvious reasons. Rodan is actually one of the more popular monsters, and according to the Criterion Collection, the Toho Master Collection here, they actually teamed them up with War of the Gargantuas, which is a sequel to, not kidding here, Frankenstein Conquers the World, where the original Japanese version of War of the Gargantuas is actually the Sons of Frankenstein, Sonda versus Gyla, War of the Gargantuas. And yeah, that's the full extended title. As for the Japanese version, actually, the weird thing is, though, Brad Pitt's a huge fan of this movie, War of the Gargantuas. I'm not making this up. He actually likes this movie. And I can't blame him. It's actually pretty good kaiju action. And there's three particular dubs I know of in that film. There's the English dub, which came over to the United States, which is on this DVD set, as well as the Japanese dub, which calls them Sonda and Gyla. But there's also the third dub, which is another English dub, where they actually call them Sonda and Gyla. But here's the thing: they call them gargantuas in the English version, but in Japan they're called the Frankensteins because they're actually the sons of Frankenstein in that version. It's very complex, and I will get to that. But I'm not going to do War of the Gargantuas today. As much as I would like to, it's a good movie. I do highly recommend it for kaiju and monster film fans. But no, I have to do War. I got to do Frankenstein Conquers the World first. And when I do, I'm going to do the Japanese version because that version is long as it actually has one hell of a story arc that a lot of people tend to overlook. As for Rodan, we're gonna do Rodan today. Now, this movie I remember watching when I was a kid, and I did enjoy it a lot when I was a kid too. Now, this Master Collection version actually has the English version and the Japanese dub version. Now, which version did I watch for the review? Well, I've gotten used to the English version so many times, but the thing is, the Japanese version feels like a completely different movie, and the storyline is well paced in this version. Although there is actually an edit in this movie that the American version did that is a lot better than the Japanese version ever did. All right, so let's get started. The movie basically starts in a small mining community at the foot of a volcano called Mount Asshole. And no, it's not Mount Asshole, okay? Yeah, I know this is something that Joe can make a ton of jokes for, like asshole, 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 asshole. No, no. We all know how the word asshole is spelled out, obviously. In this movie, it's called Mount ASO, ASO, okay? And for some of you who probably get the joke too, in the Heisei era, the main general that's actually the lead on the military is also named that as well. All right, it's pronounced asshole. It's pronounced asshole, even though everybody calls him Major Asshole. It's pretty fucking stupid. So we basically begin in the small mining community where we see miners actually going to work. But there's two particular miners that actually are actually not getting along too well. One is named Yoshi, who instigates a fight with a man named Goro, and Goro actually happens to be good friends with the head supervisor by the name of Shigeru. So there's a bit of a difference in the English version and the Japanese version. In the English version, Goro is actually supposed to be Shigeru's brother-in-law, and he's actually planning to marry his sister. And the dubbing dialogue actually suggests that Shigeru and Goro's sister, Kiyo, are supposed to get married. But in the Japanese version, they don't mention that at all. So clearly they're just really good friends, and eventually they become more of a tangled love interest. I guess due to the fact that they were trying to get this more into the American audience appeal, they tossed in the marriage thing. Yeah, real smart idea, guys. Anyway, uh, Yoshi just disrespects Goro, and they actually have a bit of a fist fight. Well, almost a fist fight. I mean, they actually stopped. I mean, the other miners actually stopped them before they actually literally, you know. So Yoshi and Goro go down to the mines, and back in the monitoring room, Shigeru gets a call saying that there was a massive flood in the mine, the very mine that Goro and Yoshi happened to be in. So, so he has security block off the entire mine, and he gets down there. However, the other miners were able to contain the flooding and stopped it just in time. But two men are missing, and who are the two men? Obviously, it's Goro and Yoshi. What are the fucking odds of that? Anyway, they actually go into the flooded area and they find Yoshi's body just floating there. And yeah, he's dead. So, so they actually try to grab him. He's actually wounded very bad. When they take a look at the wound, it's a horrific wound, and they drag him to the hospital. The doctor, before they conduct the autopsy, actually sees that he's never seen a wound like that before in his life. It's a most horrific, nasty wound. So, and they actually hold them, and they actually get everybody out of the mines, and they actually do roll call. The only person who's not involved in roll call is Goro. So everybody's assuming the fact that Goro actually killed Yoshi because there was a lot of tension between them earlier in the day. In the English dub version, they do also explain a bit more about that though, because they actually really hated each other. So, and yeah. But it's been dismissed regardless. Kyo actually gets some blame a little bit though because some of the women are suggesting that Goro may have actually killed Yoshi. Anyway, they had three men go down there. Another head supervisor, I forget his name, his partner, and a cop go down there to look for Goro. They tie themselves up. They actually tie themselves together, go head down to the water, and they hear some type of weird noises, like a chirping type noise or something. They have no idea what the hell it is until the head supervisor gets dragged in the water, screaming his lungs out. And of course, the cop shoots down there. He gets dragged in too. The remaining guy actually cuts the rope, and actually tries to makes it out of the water and tries to phone it in until we actually see something in the shadows lurking up to him, and the noise is getting louder, and the chirping noise is getting louder and louder and louder. And and we see him just like sent right to the hospital. All three men are dead. Okay, look, I'm not gonna lie here. The biggest problem with the Japanese version is that the visual is very dark. All right, you have to turn the brightness on your TV up a lot just to see it. All right, in the Americanized version, they actually did turn the brightness up a bit more, but the way they edited the scene was a lot better than what they did in the Japanese version. In the Japanese version, it felt like a fucking horror movie. How so? Here's the thing: in the American version, if you had the VHS back in the day and watched it, it actually cuts the blood. As the creature gets close, as whatever is in the shadows is getting closer to the guy, it cuts to black, and we hear the guy screaming his lungs out, and then it cuts right to the hospital segment. I'm not gonna lie, but that's one thing that the U.S. version did better than the Japanese version. All right, kudos to okay, whoever did that scene. Kudos to that guy. Seriously, whoever edited that scene is, dude, you deserve a fucking medal. That was a good horrific scene. Anyways, Shigeru actually goes to see Kyo, and some of the women are, namely Yoshi's family, is actually blaming her for what Goro did because they assume Goro did it. So of course, so some of the friends of the family actually get them out of that area, which is a small little village area. So Shigeru goes to see Kyo to actually, calm her down, just to comfort her until a giant monster shows up. Yeah, a tiger-sized insect shows up. But yeah, what is this creature? It's a Meganula. Yeah. Remember when I did Godzilla vs. Megaguirus last year? Yeah, those creatures, the Meganula, they're actually in this movie. Although the thing is, we don't see them in their dragonfly form or the Megaguirus creature they turn into. No, it's their larval state form. Yeah, Toho has actually made a Toho. The company, everybody at Toho actually remarked saying that they felt guilty. They never actually showed these creatures' full potential until they did the Godzilla versus Megaguirus film. So that film did these creatures a lot more justice. In this one, they're more like slasher movie characters, which is a little weird. So yeah, it attacks Kyo and Goro. I mean, Kyo and Shigeru. The Shigeru and Kyo actually get out of there. They actually They actually call security and the cops to show up. They go in there. They don't see it until it shows up right in front of them and attacks a couple of people. So yeah, they evacuate the village, and the police actually go after this creature. And unlike the American version, the Japanese version actually has more scenes of the creature running through actually going through the village. It's clearly a guy in a suit. It's clearly a guy in the suit, and they use puppetry for some of the long shots. But the creature actually winds up escaping, and it goes right up to the hill section, and the cops actually see it up there, along with Shigeru. So they go up there and they start shooting at it of course, pistol rounds. What I mean by pistol rounds, I mean revolvers, pistol revolvers. Why is it these things are fucking useless in monster films? Seriously. I mean, you have to notice that pistols and small revolvers of like maybe 9mm or 45 caliber design are fucking useless in these movies. Either way, they shoot at the creature. They shoot at the Meganula. It does absolutely nothing until or Meganulon or whatever the fuck they call it. Either way, it's basically the larval state form of it. So either way, a couple of guys actually go up. Two men actually go up closer to it and actually shoot it at close range until it lunges at them, grabs them by the shoulders, and starts flailing them around. It's clearly puppetry. It's clearly little puppets that we see here, and of course, the visual is so dark that, like I said, the U.S. version cleared it up a lot more. That is until the freaking puppet flips over and they all go flying downward. goes sliding right down the hill. Anyway, the doctor is with them. They actually check on the two men. They're both dead. But the doctor makes a discovery. The wounds on their shoulders are the exact wounds that are on the other bodies. So, yeah, that's the killer. It's not Goro. The creature makes its way back into the tunnel system, actually attacking somebody, but that person survived. So the police actually call in the National Guard, and they actually help them reinforce it. And to reinforce the fight, they head down to the tunnel with with a machine gun and some rifles, and of course they find Goro's body. He's basically in the area where where the flooding came in. As they're about to actually get him out, the creature showed up, and okay, look, I'm not gonna lie here, but even though the visuals in this movie are a lot darker in the tunnel section, the visuals with the Meganula creature in this section are fucking terrifying. Yeah, the lighting and the creatures and the sound effects of the creature, it's actually kind of fucking scary. I mean, if you were, I don't know, say if you were, obviously, if you were playing Resident Evil 7, or Biohazard, or Biohazard 7 Resident Evil, if you were playing the mining section of this game and that creature showed up, you'd be shitting your pants. Because that's how fucking terrifying it is. Okay, it may be a little bit of an exaggeration, but yeah, visually it's kind of scary. So they use the machine gun on the creature, like maybe empty a few dozen rounds onto the creature, does absolutely nothing. So Shigeru gets a crazy idea. He actually makes his way all the way up to the first section, to one of the first levels, and grabs a truck. One of the mining carts, which is just a truck of mining carts, like cart. He releases it, and has everybody's actually up against the wall as the thing's coming down. Right, and it takes a couple of minutes, but it crashes right into the creature, killing it instantly. Oh, it's like, great work, Shigeru. You killed the monster. So they go into the section where Goro's body is. He goes into the tunnel section where Goro's body is, and there's another one. Yeah, another fucking Meganula. So they drag Goro's body out, and they get the machine gun there and fire at the creature. And again, it doesn't work. And guess what happens? An earthquake. Yeah, we get an earthquake. Yeah. Apparently, the creature gets pummeled on by rocks and it kills it. And Shigeru, he goes missing. There's a massive cave in, and that's it. Yeah, go figure. Okay, some more minor tremors actually wind up happening, and paleontologist, along with a geologist, actually go out to the area. But a couple of guys on the road actually stop them from going on any further because the entire road section is collapsed. And apparently, whatever the tremor was actually very powerful, and it's a complete fucking wasteland area. So a reporter who's with them actually sees there's a man in the middle of the field, so they run down there and get the person, and it's Shigeru. He's been missing for almost 2 days. And they found him, and he's just like, he's dazed out of his mind. They actually bring him to the hospital. He has bad amnesia. So okay, so Shigeru is like pretty much blindsided at this point, and Kyo actually stays behind in the hospital to actually help him. To be the caregiver because he's done a lot for her. So now it's time for her to pay him back. That's really sweet. So what else actually happens? Well, an Air Force pilot actually winds up being in a dogfight with some unknown object. Yeah, an object that's going at supersonic speed. So yeah, the Air Force is talking to this pilot, and it's an intense sequence. It's like, I'm getting closer to it. I was like, oh, you see, like this. I mean, seriously, you see like this massive thing just flying around, and the jet's trying to catch up to it, like so, until it makes a U-turn, and then so snaps the plane in half, killing it, killing the pilot. They have no idea what the hell's going on, how the hell this happened. But to make matters even more difficult, a nice young couple actually wound up going to the mountain, which is Mount Aso, to Mount Aso, where the volcano is. There's been activity for it that may actually say it might erupt, but it's still somewhat dormant. So they go out there, and the woman sees something in the air that terrifies her. All right, so she and the guy wound up running away, and then, well, all we see is a wing come by, and they're gone. Yeah. Okay, in the Japanese version, we see that they're both passed out, but the next scene, they're both gone. Yeah. Oh, and here's another fun fact too. In the American dub version, guess who voiced the boyfriend? Oh my. That's right. George Takei did. Okay, seriously, what the hell? Like, what's the one thing that connects Godzilla and Star Trek together? George Takei. Yeah. Can you imagine if Godzilla actually was on an episode of Star Trek? Although, then again, William Shatner and the Enterprise and Godzilla did guest star, actually were in Airplane 2. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking about that one. Seriously, like the second half of the movie, William Shatner is like one of the main characters in the second half of the movie, and there's stock footage of Godzilla in like one of the news segments, and we get to see the Enterprise fly by as a bit of a cameo joke. So yeah, there's that George Takei and Airplane 2. Yeah. Do we really need to see a Godzilla? Do we really need to see a Godzilla Star Trek crossover? That is like the weirdest thing I've ever said so far. I mean, Godzilla Star Trek crossover. I mean, how would that even work? That is like the weirdest crossover I've ever heard. It's kind of like seeing if Godzilla actually crossed over with James Bond. Actually, that crossover might actually work. That would actually be an okay crossover. You know, forget that. I mean, it's kind of like seeing if Godzilla actually crossed over with Gamera, which is a crossover a lot of giant monster movie fans really want to happen. For God's sake, put Gamera in a Godzilla movie or something, or make him part of the MonsterVerse. It's about time he deserves his own goddamn American movie. And I'm getting off track here, so let's just get back to Rodan, shall we? Yeah. So anyway, after this little event with the couple, they found the camera and they found that the film was undeveloped. So they take a look at the negatives in the film and they see, oh, look at that. Seem really very happy. What the hell is that at the very end? It's a wing of some. It's some type of wing or something. So they get the film developed and it looks like a wing of a bird or something. But the paleontologist looks at it because the fact that that they had the Meganula creatures and Shigeru actually they tried to have Shigeru look at the photos and okay, nothing actually happened and he just like blacked out on it. Or he was suffering some trauma from it. But either way, he takes a look at some dinosaur photos and he sees and he has a drawing of a pterodactyl or a pteranodon. So he puts the wing up against the pteranodon and it's a perfect match. So it's clearly dealing with a pteranodon of some kind. But the thing is, it's a massive creature, so it's a kaiju. And this thing has been seen all over the Pacific, literally from like from China, Manila, Okinawa, Hawaii. Yeah, it's been seen all over around this area. That's a huge range, by the way. It's massive. Either way, either way, how are things going on with Shigeru? Well, the thing is, Kiyo is trying her best to give Shigeru some help whatsoever. She sees that her birdies about to actually have their eggs hatch, so she gives Shigeru the eggs, and they hatch, and PTSD kicks right in. Yeah, seriously, it just kicks right the fuck in out of nowhere. But Shigeru actually remembers what the fuck what happened to him. After the cave collapsed in, he actually enters into a giant chamber, and of course he's ambushed by a lot of the Meganula creatures. Yeah, and there's like dozens of them. So when he turns around, he sees there's a massive egg right on the side of the wall. He's like, "What the hell is that?" So he gets closer to it, and then it just breaks right open. It hatches right in front of him, and we get to see our main star, Rodan. Yep, it's a baby Rodan. I should also mention too that Rodan's height in this movie is okay. When Rodan is fully grown, he's basically around Godzilla's height, which is what 50 meters tall at least, and he has a wingspan of over 300 meters at least. But when he's first born, he's around the size of an actual pterodactyl, or like one of those big, or the size of a Quetzalcoatl creature. Those prehistoric birds are like really massive. Yeah, that's how big he is when he's born. So what happens? The second Rodan hatches, he makes his way. Rodan just nope. eats the Mega Noodles right there. Now, in the English version, they put a lot of sound into this sequence, though. But in the Japanese version, okay, let's say maybe the American version deserved a little bit more sounds in this version. Okay, let's say the Japanese version was okay, but the American version with the added sounds added a bit more tension to the whole thing. Anyway, the whole sequence ends with Rodan just flapping his little wings away, and Shigeru remembers exactly who he was, and he tells Kyo that he has to talk to everybody about the monster he just saw. So they have a huge. So everybody talks to Shigeru, and he tells them exactly what he saw, what he just saw, which was a giant pterodactyl, and it coincides with the sightings they've been seeing lately. So the paleontologist, the cop, and several other people go down to the mine where Shigeru actually got lost. They make their way down further deeper than they ever have gone before, and they find the location where the bird hatched. And there's nothing left in that area. The whole area is basically is barren. So they get to the section where the egg was, and Shigeru pulls out a giant shard of the shell. So, and then a landslide actually happens, so they get the fuck out of there. So they basically, so the scientists actually examined the eggshell, and it's confirmed it's a giant creature. It's definitely a kaiju egg of a pterodactyl creature. So a big meeting is held, and they decide to call the creature Rodan. Now, what is Rodan? It is a subspecies. It's a massive subspecies of a pterodactyl. Okay, that's not true. It's actually a subspecies of pteranodon, and it's called Rodan. So they figure out exactly where Rodan may actually be. They actually drive out to the area, and Rodan actually makes his appearance. Yeah, he makes his appearance, and the cop tells the driver tells one of his drivers to actually phone it in to headquarters. But Rodan actually comes flying right out. They all take cover, and the guy driving away, yeah, kills him instantly. Yeah. So Rodan Flynn makes another flyby. The Air Force actually finally comes in, and they have a bit of a dogfight with him. This dogfight actually lasts for like several minutes, and okay, to be fair, Godzilla King of the Monsters actually did this scene a lot more justice by making the scene much more intense. And also, the director of the movie actually got eaten by Rodan too. Well, you didn't know that? That was Michael Dougherty, the pilot who ejected and got eaten by Rodan. That was Michael Dougherty. You didn't know that? Well, now you do. It's kind of like saying you seeing Adam Wingard get crushed by Godzilla in Godzilla versus Kong, or the fact that AVGN himself actually turned down the cameo in Godzilla versus Kong. Dude, seriously, you should have took the cameo. I mean, come on, you can at least brag to your kids. You can at least brag to your fans and your family saying, "Hey, I'm a Godzilla fan, and I was in the Godzilla movie." I take that opportunity. Anyway, the dogfight continues on further in the whole sequence, and Rodan does actually destroy maybe a good chunk of the good chunk of the planes. There's actually a sequence where he actually goes right past the bridge. But here's a bit of a fun fact too. He actually doesn't go past the bridge. He actually dives underneath. He actually dives into the bridge. And here's fun fact. Okay, Rodan's actually played by Haruo Nakajima. That's right. The famous Godzilla actor himself plays Rodan. Not really surprising because he's basically the Jackie Chan of stuntmen at this point. Here's the thing. That wasn't supposed to happen. The cable that was supporting Haru actually snapped, and he actually dove head first into the water. So the sequence where you see Rodan actually diving into the water, that was an accident. But Haru being the man he is, he's like, "Hey, I'm okay. Let's take a look at the scene. Hey, it looks good. Keep it in the movie." So yeah, rather than actually flying over the bridge and actually collapsing it, they actually make Rodan dive in. He comes flying right out, and of course he swings by, and of course collapses the bridge by flying over it. Yeah, here's the thing: every time when Rodan literally flies over something, anything that's underneath whoa gets blown away by by the shockwave. So yeah, the bridge literally collapses underneath Rodan, and the Air Force and the Army continue to fight Rodan inside the city. I don't know if this is they're saying it's supposed to be a section of Tokyo. I'm not really too sure if it is Tokyo at this point because they never specifically said where the mountain was. But either way, Rodan actually makes his landing actually flies right by the section of the city, More shit goes flying in the air. This is actually what Rodan's basically is known for, and I'm going to be honest, this is actually a pretty good sequence, how they actually did everything with the miniatures. And in King of the Monsters, again, they actually did the scenes even more justice, which really begs this question. Why can't we just have a solo Rodan movie right now? I mean, the Monsterverse is still expanding. Just give Rodan his own solo movie. Hell, make him tag team with Mothra later on. All right? Hell, Mothra deserves her own solo movie. Yeah, some of these monsters deserve their own fucking solo movie now. We know Godzilla's going to be the main star in the new Godzilla X Kong film, so why the hell not? Either way, Rodan actually eventually makes his landing and actually starts, well, destroying a section of the city. And the army and the army and air force are actually trying their best to shoot him, to gun him down. And well, Rodan, he's basically just flapping his wings, causing massive typhoon style winds. Yeah, seriously, we see like soldiers like, I gotta fly, I gotta fly, I gotta. Ah! Yeah, it's just he's literally just blowing wind at this point. And I should also mention, originally they were supposed to give Rodan a like a fire breath, kind of like what Godzilla has. Although this is the first film that Toho did that was in color, so the heat ray sequence that Godzilla actually had, it looks good in the black and white version. But when the first colorized film came out, they tried it with Rodan. It didn't look so good. In fact, if you pause this movie at certain segments of Rodan's attack, whether it's the English version or the Japanese version, and you pause it just right, you see Rodan just go. "Rrr." If you look closely at his mouth, you can clearly see the spray coming out of his mouth. All right, that's any indication that that was supposed to be his heat ray. But unfortunately, it didn't look too good. It looked terrible in color. So they decided to just cut the sequence altogether, use some of the footage, and just replace it with his roar. That's it. Now, we won't get to see Rodan actually using his heat ray until Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 in 1993. And to be fair, when they made him turn to Fire Rodan, that's when they gave him the heat ray. So it's more of a justification saying he was originally supposed to have a heat ray. But in this case, they decided to cut it all together. The one big advantage that Rodan has over Godzilla is that he can fly at supersonic speed. Although later in the later on in the Showa series, Godzilla was able to fly in one movie, and that is a total mind fuck when I get to that film when I get to that film a lot later. Trust me, that is a massive mind fuck. Anyway, Rodan continues to trash the city further, and the army is literally pinning down on Rodan himself until another Rodan shows up. Yeah, there's two of them. I should also mention that going back to the English version real quick, they actually do say that they actually mentioned earlier on that there were actually two UFOs, not just one, and and they replay the footage. Only on the shot angle is reversed. They're saying that's a second Rodan. Huh. Oh, that's just great. So the way the American film was edited, it looks like shit, and it looks like we're following the second Rodan and not the first one. What the fuck? Yeah. Although it's clear to say that what we're seeing is the first Rodan. And yeah, he's basically destroying a lot of the city. His mate comes by. The second Rodan comes in which is his mate, comes by and flies by the whole area, clearing the whole spot for him. So, and of course, Rodan eventually flies away with his mate, and they leave the entire city burning, and they disappear. Yeah, they literally don't show up for an entire week. That's like they're gone. They're disappeared. Well, gee, I wonder what happened there. Now they're not fully gone. The paleontologist Shigeru and the reporter believe that they're actually back in the mountains, back in the volcano. So they take a helicopter out there, they fly by, and they see human bones, and there's actually a slipper indicating that that's actually the couple from earlier. And of course, they spot Rodan in one of the crevices, sleeping. Ah, so they actually went back to the volcano. Why? But either way, they make it back, and they go over the plan with the army, and Shigeru and the villagers are not really happy with this plan. The plan is to actually use artillery fire and missiles to actually shoot the volcano, and actually make it and try to make it erupt. And of course, they're against the plan because the village may actually be destroyed, and their livelihood may also be gone too. Hmm. Let's see. We shoot out the. Okay, we fire the Rodans right now while they're hibernating inside of a semi-active volcano. Make the activate the volcano itself. Actually, make sure they die within the volcano. And the biggest collateral is like your village gets destroyed. Versus the fact that if we let them live and they come out of hibernation, they're going to destroy more cities and millions of more lives are going to get killed. Fuck your, fuck your village. We're blowing the volcano up, assholes. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. You dumb shits. I gotta stop making Star Trek references at this point. Unbelievable. That's like the second Star Trek reference I just made today. Seriously. So, anyway, the military actually helps evacuate the town. And just before the order actually gets out for them to attack, the town gets fully evacuated. And Kyo, rather than just evacuate, she actually goes and stays with Shigeru. Well, that's nice. This is not. In the Japanese version, they never really mentioned they had a romance. I mean, seriously, it's kind of dumb. It's kind of ridiculous. Well, either way, the village is cleared. Time to attack. They launch missiles and use artillery fire on the volcano itself. After a good long section, they continue firing at the volcano where the Rodans are hibernating. So Rodan himself actually winds up escaping at one point, and the volcano actually winds up erupting the second he leaves the volcano. The second Rodan actually winds up leaving too, but unfortunately, with the massive heat coming off, and of course the massive heat from the volcano and the force of the volcano actually hitting it, we don't see it though, but it's actually affected by the force of the volcano. The second Rodan actually actually lands on the volcano and gets burned by the lava. Yeah, everybody's out. Shigeru and everybody else is outside watching this whole thing, and Kyo actually snuggles with Shigeru like a romantic segment, saying that she's horrified of what she sees. Yeah, they're basically dead at this point. Rodan himself actually tries to lands and try to actually get his mate to come up, though. Unfortunately, it's not happening. So he tries to escape well, of course, the intensive heat actually causes him to actually collapse, or most likely one of the wires actually snapped on the prop and it just falls right into the volcano pit, right on the volcano set. Also, I should mention this entire segment. All you hear is the massive mortar shell firing and the volcano erupting, and the Rodan screeching. That's it. That's all you hear. Right? There's actually not one word other than this entire section, unlike the English version, which has Shigeru monologuing throughout most of the movie, except the parts where he's actually having amnesia and during the attack sequence and the last sector. Up until the Rodans actually died, and he just went shut the fuck up. Yeah. The English version and the Japanese version is a lot better because the last thing we hear is actually the military actually calling off the attack. The mission is now successful. So both Rodans actually go up in a massive flame on the volcano. Toss them the end credit at the end, and that's it. The movie is over. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Rodan. That was Rodan. Would I recommend you watching it? Hell's yes. Rodan is actually considered one of the most classic kaiju characters, and this is a pretty damn good film. Not to mention, keep this in mind, the first half of the movie is like a giant bug monster film. That's actually like it's a bug film and a slasher film mixed together. Well, the second half is a legit kaiju film. So yeah, it throws you for a loop. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Also, if you look closely right here, you can see what the Mega Noodle creature actually looks like. Right there. And there's the Rodan. So yeah, I do highly recommend watching this. If you're a Godzilla fan or a Kaiju fan, give this movie a watch. Other than that, that's it. That's Rodan. Now, what's the next film I'm going to do? I'm going to do a comedy movie. Yeah, I've done action films. I did an entire month of horror films. and one Scooby-Doo film, and one Tom Selleck, Jesse Stone film. So, next film I'm going to do is a comedy film. That's ripping off a very popular sports movie. So until then, until next time, you all take care now. VRX Frank, out.